Good afternoon, everyone from Sichuan University's School of Literature and Journalism. Today, I'm very honored as a host from Chengdu Television and as a specially invited guest for this event to participate and share the spiritual wealth of this great master, Khenpo Sodargye. Together, we'll explore some issues that everyone is very concerned about. Before the lecture begins, let me say a few words. I heard that everyone present is a junior or senior student. Soon, the most pressing issue you'll face is employment. Someone once said that in the 21st century, the biggest problem is no longer about food and clothing. For us Chinese, the biggest problem is the problem of the heart. Whether it's employment or facing society in the future, we'll encounter many issues that need to be faced and challenged. But in this process, I think what worries everyone most, what they fear most, is this uncertainty about the future. What will the future be like? Where will we go tomorrow? When facing various issues in work, life, or relationships, how should we learn to let go, learn to be at ease, learn to resolve them, and then allow our hearts to travel light and continue forward? Well, today is a very rare and precious opportunity. I think all the students who can be here today are very fortunate people, because today you'll meet Khenpo Sodargye, this renowned master. First, please allow me to give a brief introduction of him. Our master, Khenpo Sodargye, was born in 1962. He graduated from the very famous Larongga Five Sciences Buddhist Academy. From when he started until now, he has had several decades of practice. He has been to many places and has extremely high reputation and influence both at home and abroad. His followers worldwide are countless. At many prestigious universities and colleges, including Peking University, Tsinghua University, Fudan University, and Harvard University, he has given very wonderful lectures and received extremely high praise. Today, the master has come to Sichuan University's School of Literature and Journalism. Now, friends, let's give our warmest applause together to invite Khenpo Sodargye to enter. Also, Secretary Luo from the School of Literature and Journalism. Please welcome.
Students, today we are very honored to have invited Khenpo Sodargye to the School of Literature and Journalism to give us a lecture. Khenpo Sodargye is a great Khenpo from the world-renowned Larongga Five Sciences Buddhist Academy in Serta. In recent years, Khenpo Sodargye has been invited to give lectures at major universities at home and abroad, including Harvard University and Columbia University in the United States, the University of Hong Kong, Peking University, and Tsinghua University. The master's profound thoughts have been warmly welcomed by university students. He's been hailed as a spiritual mentor for contemporary young people. Now, a student representative from our school will present a beautiful bouquet of flowers to the respected Khenpo to express the deep gratitude of the students from the School of Literature and Journalism. To Khenpo Rinpoche. Everyone. Please welcome. Next, let's applaud and invite Khenpo to bring us a wonderful lecture.
Thank you, Secretary Luo, and thank you all very much. For me, this is my second visit to Sichuan University. The first time was at the law school, probably in the first half of this year, where I gave a lecture. This time, coming here to the School of Journalism and the School of Literature, I'll exchange ideas with everyone from these two schools. We'll explore and learn together about how to face psychological pressure. Personally, I'm very interested in this topic because nowadays, many people constantly say the pressure is so great as a mountain. It's so painful, so sad. There are many such topics. I've also analyzed before that actually the so-called great pressure should be said to be a relatively sensitive and commonly used topic among people today. For ancient people, they didn't talk about great pressure. There was no such expression. Including when I was very young, I basically never heard it. Whether from students, teachers, or people at all levels in society, no one talked about having great pressure. But in recent years, people often talk about great pressure. In schools, they also often say the pressure is very great. Last year, for a period of time, a certain university did some statistics. During the statistics process, most university students often said, great pressure, heavy troubles, or really, could also work. Most catchphrases use negative, pessimistic, and rather painful tones. From this, we can see that the voices people often express in daily life are not very happy, fortunate, joyful, grateful, and such words. So from this, we can also see that people's confusion in life is relatively great now. Why is this? Actually, from a certain perspective, I personally believe that now is the 21st century. In terms of external material development, it should be said to be the most prosperous era in human history. No matter which country, it should be said our skyscrapers are built higher and higher, and the cars people drive are more and more luxurious. Moreover, the styles of people's clothing are diverse. Whether in quality or style, there has been certain progress compared to the previous era. But why don't people today have a sense of happiness? Instead, they have a sense of pressure. What's the reason? We can see from this that actually true human happiness doesn't depend on external material things. This kind of peace in our hearts, this kind of tranquility in our hearts, if it's increasingly lost, it's very likely that inner happiness cannot be found. At this point, I don't know if the students and teachers present have analyzed the issue of pressure. Actually, the so-called pressure in Buddhist scriptures is very easy to understand. It's a kind of suffering. This suffering is brought about by desire. This is called pressure. Buddhism has a specific term. I don't know if you've heard of it. The suffering of not getting what one desires. You very much want to obtain something, but you keep not getting it, whether they're status, wealth, fame, relationships, or many aspects of various issues. You want them very much, but in the end you can't have your wish fulfilled. Recently, some schools have done some analysis on the pressure of university students. During the analysis process, most of the pressure comes from what? Some is from family. The family's expectations of students are very heavy. It should be said that everything in the future, including parents' retirement and the family's future continuation, all have a certain relationship with students. So all hopes are placed on you. This is pressure from family. There's also another pressure, academic pressure. Everyone knows that in this information age now, studying one subject may not provide you with skills and knowledge. You need to learn many kinds of knowledge, various techniques and skills. At this time, the pressure of studying is also continuous. From elementary school, middle school, all the way to high school, university, including graduate students and doctoral students, all have very great pressure. This is also a kind of pressure brought by academic studies. More importantly, now there's a lot of pressure regarding employment. Those present know that now university students finally get into university with great difficulty. It seems like after entering university, everyone feels like they've gone to heaven. At first, the feeling is particularly good, but after arriving at university, they're very confused and don't know what the future holds. Before this, there was parental guidance, teacher guidance, always with goals. When you get to university, it seems like you've already reached the finish line. After university graduation, what kind of work will you do? What will you do? It seems there's no certainty in the heart. The future is complete confusion. At this time, university students have a lot of sadness and pain. Moreover, in current society, everyone probably knows every year, universities all recruit students in great numbers, enrolling students beyond quotas. So more and more people graduate, while the positions needed may be fewer and fewer. Especially in recent years, the economy has not been very prosperous. Perhaps in various organizations, even existing staff still need to be downsized. At this time, perhaps the number of university graduates and what society needs, these two balance points are very difficult to connect. In such circumstances, employment has also become a problem. There's another issue. Now, many university students are very tangled up in emotions because in university, it's relatively free. Many emotional issues in the heart erupt, but after a period of time, they themselves have no way to make it as beautiful as they imagined. Many problems in the end also cannot be resolved. So after this, what I mentioned above, one is family, second is academics, then there's employment and relationships. These issues are also confusing for university students. Not only university students, but for many young people in society now. These issues should be social issues and also life issues. In such circumstances, what do I bring to everyone today? Actually, as a Buddhist, it should be said that for myself, I don't have that much pressure. Once, I had a reunion with some of my former classmates. During the reunion, when I first became a monk, many classmates and teachers were very concerned about me, thinking I would starve to death, that after becoming a monk, I'd have no future, that it was pitiful. They were very concerned about me. But later, on the surface, The life I live is even more at ease, free and easy, without much constraint or inner pressure. Why is this? Actually, this should be said to have a certain relationship with our desires. If many young people present were like in the last century, when people's desires weren't so explosive, weren't so severe, perhaps the pace of our life wouldn't be so fast, and perhaps the pressure in our lives wouldn't be so heavy. But we also have no way. This era has already become like this. I'm thinking, if people's pressure is so great in the 21st century, what will people in the 23rd and 24th centuries become like? Comparatively speaking, the last century, the 20th century, should be said that throughout human history, on one hand, for the scientific world, it was a century with the greatest contributions. Because in this century, many great scientists, inventors, and creators of humanity all emerged in this century. It should be said that many unprecedented new scientific inventions also began here. But on the other hand, in the last century, World War I and World War II, that is to say, the bloodiest era of humanity, relying on scientific invention and creation, according to statistics, about 200 million people ended their lives in bloodshed. At such a time, young people now, including some religious people, also must analyze this century, this era, this society. In the process of analysis, I believe everyone present today should have this responsibility. In the end, what kind of role should people of the 21st century play toward family, toward society, and even toward all humanity throughout the entire world? This point may need everyone present to think about. I personally think that everyone present, first, it's best not to be too greedy in your future life. If you're very greedy, perhaps the pressure in our lives will be very great. The famous philosopher Plato, he said this: greed is the truest poverty, and contentment is the truest wealth. I still very much appreciate this statement. That is to say, in life, if a person is particularly greedy, then perhaps there will never be a time of satisfaction. In your life, in your work, in your pursuits, people's greed will always be endless. At this time, you'll always be in pressure and pain. It's impossible to have a sense of happiness and joy. So I think, first, in our future lives, we must have a kind of relaxation, must have a kind of going with the flow. Don't be greedy without limit. If so, perhaps in any job we do, in any environment, we won't have pressure. People with excessive greed will not be happy. Buddhist scriptures also say this. So-called greed is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Similarly, the more greedy we are, the more the pain in our hearts increases. In this way, I think our human being is very rare. In the end, I'm afraid it may be terminated by desire. There is this possibility and danger. There's another thing. In the future, no matter what life pressures there are, everyone should become strong. Why must we be strong? Because the path of life actually isn't smooth and flat. It's bumpy and uneven. Some young people among you haven't yet walked this path. It's like a roller coaster. Actually, the road of life is winding and twisting. We can't think of it as too beautiful, too wonderful. You can't think that way. You should have mental preparation early. When you leave the school gate, when you enter society, the people in this society may be relatively cold and indifferent, not necessarily caring about you. On this path, you'll encounter many, many obstacles and adversities. At this time, you need a kind of strength. You cannot give up, cannot abandon. If you give up or despair, at such a time, in the end, it's truly not beneficial to society or to the individual. Those present may know that recently, in big cities now, many people's emotions are very volatile. It seems that this year, for a period, there was a stranger who kept killing people on a bus, like 5 people or something. Finally, when asked, it seemed he had lost hope in society, both for himself and for others. Originally, these people were normal, but in school, in life, their hearts gradually grew cold, became disheartened. All this disheartenment will lead to failure in life. There was an English philosopher named Bacon. You all know him. He once said, frustrated and disappointed, disappointed and shaken, shaken and defeated. If we first feel that life has no meaning, then we'll produce disappointment and finally produce despair. It's very possible that one's entire life will be utterly ruined. Very regrettable. I think everyone present must pay attention, especially young people now. University students. Many people, when encountering a little obstacle in relationships or in life, at this time very quickly think of either killing others or killing themselves. This is a very frightening thing. In this world, the most precious, most meaningful thing is life. I think no matter how painful or sad a person is, it's not worth giving up one's precious life. This is a very foolish action. So students in the future should think that now in various universities, in autumn, winter, summer, in different seasons, emotions become so volatile that they quarrel with friends. A while ago, I exchanged ideas with a scholar. During our exchange, he said his older brother, while pursuing his PhD at Columbia University, committed suicide because of relationship problems. Because of his suicide, his father is a scholar. From then on, they realized that life has such impermanence. So everyone present must think about what? Think about what Buddhism teaches. Everything is impermanent. This is very important. I think if you study Buddhism in school, if you study religion, some of the teachings of religion are truly very important for our lives. If you received such education from childhood, when you're in pain, you won't choose this path. Why? Whether it's relationships or status, these are all impermanent. What you like today, you may not like tomorrow. It's the same with yourself and the same with others. I once heard a professor who graduated from Peking University say that among university students who make friends or fall in love, 90% of them break up in the end. Those who don't break up, even after getting married, end up divorcing. This is a natural law, not an individual's misfortune. Now, many people can't think it through. What's the reason they can't think it through? I was so good to him, how did he treat me? Or I have no way to express my feelings to him, and so on. With such mentalities, in the end, they make very unwise choices. So I think in the future, the most serious problem for people now, especially young people, there are the most problems appearing now in various universities. Everyone should know about this aspect. First, you must think, this is originally an impermanent thing. When this impermanent thing ends, if you're prepared early, then your heart won't bring such suffering. Also, in our future studies and in life, we must have a kind of mental preparation. What kind of mental preparation? In current society, there are so many people. If I don't find a job, if I encounter the greatest, most painful time in my life, how will I carry on? This is very, very important. I've looked at some successful people in the world, including US President Obama, some of his life circumstances when he was young. It should be said, compared to average university students, many people now should be relatively happy, including Bill Gates' wife, when she describes some of her life experiences. I think many university students now may not be that painful. We can compare. At this time, I think some students present, whether in your student days now or in your future life. Perhaps at the beginning, you may not be able to find many things you need. But when you can't get these things, actually, we still must persist in continuing. And at a certain point, there's an old saying, 10 years of hard study, no one asks. Once famous, the whole world knows. There's such a saying. When you're a student, I think studying is very important, and other things don't need much consideration. Now, some students who should study don't study, always thinking about this and that. When they finally graduate, they haven't learned much knowledge, haven't learned anything, then no position wants them, and finally, they themselves are disheartened. This phenomenon, they haven't become talents, and society doesn't need many of them. So we need to learn knowledge on the one hand, and on the other hand, we need to learn how to be a person. Now, many intellectuals, although their technical knowledge is relatively good, in being a person, in interpersonal relations and moral education, they've been relatively poor since childhood. Because many people, especially only children born after the 80s and 90s, parents always pampered you, and teachers at school also protected you, afraid of your emotions. If you're unhappy, afraid you'll commit suicide. So teachers don't necessarily like you, but they protect your emotions. When you enter society, society is not like this. In society, everyone does their own thing, regardless of whether you're happy or not. At this time, we ourselves must have strong willpower. Without strong willpower, I think many people now have relatively great vanity, strong selfishness, plus very weak altruism. It seems that between people, if you slightly bump into them, slightly contact them, they can't take even one sentence. Their hearts are particularly fragile. In such a society, sometimes I think like this. From the perspective of the older generation before, people now should be very happy in terms of life. However, many students now may not have a sense of happiness. Why don't they have a sense of happiness? When I was young, having one piece of new clothing made us happy for a long time. Even getting one piece of candy, we felt very happy and reluctant to eat it. Many people now don't have this feeling. Whatever candy they have, no matter how they eat it, it has no sweet taste. Whatever clothes they wear, they have no feeling. So this kind of feeling now seems to be more and more numb, with less and less sense of joy. This is also a problem. So I think in the future, we should have a new way of thinking. What kind of new way of thinking? People present should think about what happiness really is. About suffering, we usually think, now the pressure is so great, so painful, so sad, so desperate, so confused. Actually, these don't exist. It should be said we're very happy. We're still alive, right? We haven't gotten a terminal illness. We haven't become beggars. Actually, being able to get into a university like this, compared to many people, is also very fortunate. But often in higher education institutions, there are more and more people with emotional instability and suicide. What's the reason? Actually, people cannot find true happiness in external circumstances. Sometimes adjusting our inner state is very important. When some people are in pain, I advise them to study Buddhism. In studying Buddhism, I'm not necessarily forcing them to enter religion. Because I'm a Buddhist, I don't have the principle of making everyone study Buddhism and become monks. I don't have this principle. But from my heart, I genuinely want to help them. After they study Buddhism and adjust their mindset, it has certain meaning for their lives, because in Buddhism, the things we're most attached to now, the most painful, the most troubling issues, one sentence can resolve them easily. Perhaps people present often seek fame, status, wealth, and are troubled by these. But actually, if you truly have them, can you be happy? You may also need to ask yourselves. In the past, in Buddhism, there was a great master, a very remarkable, accomplished practitioner. 3 young people came before him. The 3 young people said, "We now feel very confused, troubled, and painful in our hearts." This great master was called Master Wu Dei. Master Wu Dei then said, "What do you think is the happiest thing in the world?" One person said, "Having fame is the happiest." Another person said, "Having love is the happiest." Another person said, "Having money is the happiest." Finally, the Zen master said, "Not necessarily. People with fame also have much suffering. People with relationships are also very painful. People with wealth also have much suffering." These 3 young people were speechless, had nothing to say. Indeed, they also saw in life that when you don't have it, you really want to get it, but having it doesn't necessarily make you happy. For example, when you have no money, you think having money will definitely make you happy, but when you truly have money, from then on you're very painful. There are many matters. Similarly, having fame and having love are both like this. Later, these 3 young people said, "Then what should we do?" Then the Chan master said, "If you have fame, you should serve society. The use of fame is best to serve society through this fame. If you have love, you must know how to yield and devote. In this way, you'll be happy. If you have wealth, give it to sentient beings, give it to others." Now, many people, including in universities I often visit, wealthy students never think of helping others. They don't have this habit. It's very regrettable. Some students have no money and eat only 2 steam buns a day, especially those from the countryside with very difficult living conditions. In school, they often don't dare to eat meals with classmates. It's very painful, but wealthy people have money they can't spend and won't help others. Actually, in schools, those who are extremely wasteful, when they go into society, in the end, they may not be very accomplished. One should learn a kind of generosity. If you learn generosity, it truly helps your own life. Now, many successful people's lives gain happiness through generosity. You may have heard of Rockefeller. He should have been the biggest oil tycoon in America in the last century. At first, he was also very poor. At 34 years old, he began to establish a company and start his own business. But in the process of starting his business, at the beginning in interpersonal contact, he was always gloomy and knew nothing except making money. By age 53, he had a great deal of money, but his physical health had collapsed completely. Finally, the doctor said, "If you continue like this, your life may not last more than a year. Very soon there will be no hope." At that time, he reflected on himself. He thought, "I've made so much money in my lifetime. What's it for? Can I alone use it all?" Finally, he made a resolution. On one hand, his life must change. From now on, he must be easy to approach with others and get along harmoniously. That is to say, chat with others, play ball, drink tea, sing, and so on, and get along with others. At the same time, from his wealth, he took out a portion for giving. The famous University of Chicago was established by him single-handedly at that time. Later, he began to create his own foundation to help illiterate and poor people around the world. Unexpectedly, later his lifespan extended by 45 years. When he left this world, he was 98 years old. So from his story, at that time he should have been equivalent to Bill Gates in today's world, the richest person in the world. Looking at his life experience, although we don't have as much wealth as him, nor such fortune and riches, I think wealthy people can also transform their destiny and perspectives. People like us can sometimes also reflect on ourselves, about what we possess now. Every day we only think of ourselves, fundamentally not caring for or considering others. I feel there are some problems in current society. What problems? Everyone is particularly selfish and only thinks of themselves. Why are there many suicides now, or many cases emerging, all centered on the self? If we had even a little bit of altruistic heart, then we ourselves would also live very happily and wouldn't be so painful. Helping others greatly, the whole society would become a different atmosphere. In current society, everyone constantly thinks only of themselves. For themselves, they dare to say and do everything. For helping others, they do very little. If such behavior and such language continue, although on the surface the whole external world looks very wonderful, but actually, if people's inner state keeps sliding downward, I'm afraid this world may not appear very beautiful. So much of our pressure comes from selfishness, from vanity, from ignorance, from a kind of self-protective heart. This is what I think. Is this reasonable? I hope you will also think about it carefully. If we have an altruistic heart, if we have a heart to help others, then our own health, our lifespan, many aspects will naturally emit a kind of virtuous light, manifest a kind of warm breath. Aura. At that time, the whole society will also become very harmonious. So I think everyone present in your future lives must have an altruistic heart. This is very important. There's another thing. I hope students in schools in the future will learn what? Learn to be frugal. Now, many people like to wear designer clothes and waste money. This is very bad. It should be said, I think, when you're in school, in life, the clothes you wear should at least not need changing for 10 to 20 years. Don't change clothes again and again after one semester or a few months. It's meaningless, very wasteful. If you must change, then these clothes should be given to poor people to fulfill their purpose, right? Now, in eating, some people are also very extravagant. Actually, this waste of food nowadays, in this society, in this world, there are so many hungry children, so many poor people. Actually, our wasting like this is very unreasonable. Also, some of our classmates around us may not even be able to afford meals. This is very unreasonable. Therefore, I very much hope that in universities, whether teachers or students, it's best not to be extravagant. If you're extravagant, the knowledge you learn won't be very solid or deep. I think at Harvard University, there are truly many admirable aspects. They have one aspect: they never compare themselves to others. Among classmates, not one compares what designer brands you're wearing today. There's no such talk. Everyone dresses very simply, very plainly. Moreover, over there, everyone studies very diligently. Day and night they study. Besides studying, not many people chat. Including when eating, everyone holds a book, eating while reading. I think this spirit for the student era is very precious, very admirable. Not chatting all day or watching movies, wasting time all day, just muddling through university, not actually studying. Such a life, after you graduate, I'm afraid it will be very unfavorable for society and for individuals. Therefore, during the short university period, all your time should be focused wholeheartedly, working tirelessly on studying, and the knowledge studied should be beneficial to individuals and society. Now, many people watch cartoons, watch anime, every day staying up late, watching violent pornographic movies and TV. Afterward, because in current movies and TV shows, at the slightest provocation there's killing, heartlessness, ignoring others. In such situations, after many young people learn this in their own lives, they also start using it in society. In the end, it's unfavorable for their own families and themselves. So in current society and education, I hope everyone should learn from the virtuous side, should learn from the beneficial aspects. Also, study diligently. I think for anyone, whether young or old, this is indispensable. Only studying brings light to one's life. Only studying reveals a truly bright future for one's life. Only in this way does life have meaning, does existence have meaning. All right, thank you. I'll stop here.